Welcome to the Budget Mom YouTube channel. I'm Kamiko Love from thebudgetmom.com, and today we are diving into another real life budget. I've been getting a ton of requests, so many questions asking when I was going to start doing these again. So I'm really happy that I was able to do one today and hopefully more in the future. My schedule is kind of wonky with little Dante, so I'm trying. But I'm able to do one today. So the real life budgets is where I take a deep dive into the finances of real people, just like you, community members, TBM family members. I'm going to be sharing their real numbers, their stories, and their goals to really create, to the best of my ability with the information I was given, a budget plan using the Budget by Paycheck method that helps them move closer to financial fulfillment. So today we're talking about Tina from Washington State. And Tina and her husband are in their 60s, and their why and their purpose for being on this journey is really their family, their children, and their grandchildren. They've worked really hard to give their 7 kids this really beautiful life, and including adopting 4 little ones. But like many of us, life kind of threw some unexpected challenges their way, which includes some medical expenses and home repairs, which really led to them maxing out multiple credit cards, which you'll be seeing in their debt picture. Now, Tina feels like they're drowning in debt, and they're living paycheck to paycheck because of that debt, despite having some really good retirement income. And here's her goal. It's to break free from this kind of financial stress and really rebuild the stability that they once had. Now, in this video, I'm going to walk you through Tina's real numbers, her family's monthly income, fixed and variable expenses, their savings goals, and of course, their debt. Now, I'm going to try to craft this realistic plan to help Tina and her family not only manage their budget, but to also really start digging their way out of debt while focusing on really what matters most to them, family and their quality of life. And I'm going to be showing a tool today that's only offered in my Building Blocks of Budgeting course, but I feel it's really important to show this. Now, remember, these real life videos, they're not here and they're not about judgment or criticism. That's not why I do them. It's about learning, growing, maybe getting a different perspective, and realizing that you're not alone on your financial struggles. So let's get started with Tina's real life budget. So I have everyone that wants to submit their budgeting information to possibly be featured in a real life budget. I have them fill out these worksheets. You can find these in my free resource library. I'll put a link to that in the description of this video and where you can submit the paperwork to do that. So let's look at Tina's story. Now, their why. My husband and my children, I want us to live without stressing about if we're going to make it, okay? The next thing, let's look at the story. Her story is very remarkable. My husband and I are in our 60s. We have 7 children, 3 bio and 4 adopted, ranging from 7 to 42 years old. I also have 10 grandchildren. After 25 years, we closed our foster care license after adopting our 4 littles. Financially, we were doing very well prior, and they were set for a fair retirement. Shortly after adoption, our son started having extreme behavioral issues. With medical and mental health therapies, we have depleted our savings. So now we live paycheck to paycheck, and our quality of life is not very good. We just recently had to place our son in a therapeutic home, which has increased our expenses. We are hopeful that this is a temporary placement. Over the last several years, we have managed to max out approximately 15 credit cards. I am so embarrassed to admit this. The majority of the charges on the cards were for repairs to our home and medical and counseling. I never relied or utilized credit cards until the last 10 years. Now we are so far in debt, I truly feel like we are drowning. And like I said in the beginning part of this video, when you are first laying out all of your financial information, you've never seen it laid out everything written down like you may see on these worksheets, it's very easy to be overwhelmed. But I'm going to show you something remarkable today. Even with the debt you see here right now in this video, I'm going to show you that Tina and her husband can be 100% debt-free, including their mortgage, in just 6 years. Everything, all the debt, I'm going to show you today. But let's get into their income and pay schedule. Okay, so they get paid on multiple days throughout the month. So they currently make $10,689. Comes from a couple of different sources. They have VA retirement, they have disability, they have some other retirement, Social Security. Then they have one on the 25th listed as other income. I'm not 100% what that is, but it's for $2,011. So they're basically getting paid on the 2nd, the 15th, and the 25th. Now, I did some math. Out of the $10,689, 41% of that is spent on debt payments. 41% of their income is being eaten by debt payments. Now, the first thing I always do when I'm looking at people's information is the red light, green light test. You take their income minus the fixed expenses, minus the variable expenses, minus any saving goals. Are they in the positive or in the negative? If they're in the positive, they have a green light to continue with their financial plan, to move forward, to take action. If it's in the negative, it's a red light. Red light means stop, stop, stop. It's time to stop and look at why we're in the red. There's two parts to that equation. Is it an income problem or is it a spending problem? So she has a green light. They have $2,079. After paying for all of their expenses and taking care of their savings goals. Now, their savings goals in this doesn't include their emergency fund. We'll get into that, but they have a surplus. Now, if we look at their bills and fixed expenses, they have so many that we had to double up on some of the lines. Like on the 17th here, we put car loan plus their Disney Plus bundle. So anywhere you see really a slash, that's where we doubled up on some of their bills. Now, okay. Everything in yellow I highlighted is debt. Everything in yellow. Currently, they spend $6,000, and we had to put their total up here at the top, $6,312 on their fixed expenses. Now, fixed expenses include your bills and minimum debt payments. Now, $6,312 is what they are currently spending. If they didn't have debt, it would be $1,895 for their fixed expenses. A massive, incredible drop and decrease in their expense spending if they were to get rid of all of those debt payments. So they have mortgage, Starlink, car insurance, Up Faith and Family. I'm not really sure what that is. A Venture credit card, an Vantage credit card, medical, dental, Home Depot credit card, Disney Premier debt, Prime credit card, USAA credit card, Lowe's credit card. We'll get into all their debt. Chewy and PetSmart, they have Verizon, Disney Plus bundle, their car loan, they have a roof loan, and the rest is debt here. So let's look at their variable expenses. Now, their variable expenses aren't out of control. There is one that is a little unusual and unique to their situation. Now, so groceries, they do $600, and this is monthly. Gas is $300 a month. Travel. Okay, this is their unique variable expense. It's $650 a month that they give themselves for travel. And I'm like thinking when I saw that, I'm like, wow, travel, where are you going for $650 every single month for travel? So travel, we travel across the state about 5 to 6 hours away to see our son. We drive there one weekend every month, and he flies home once a month. Now, I believe this is the child that was dealing with some behavioral issues that's in that therapeutic home. And so that's a unique expense to their situation. Medications, $175 a month. Garbage dumps, $50 a month. Their extracurricular activities is $250. So children, remember, they have a huge range for their children. They have ages 7 to 42 years old. So they are still dealing with children who are under their care and financial responsibility. So they have clothing and shoes, $75 a month. And then they have rabbits and chickens, what they spend $125 a month, for a total of $225 every month on variable expenses. So let's look at their savings goals. They have no major short, medium, or long-term savings goals. They do have some ongoing savings that they're doing. Propane, they spend about $516 every year on propane, about $350 on homeschooling. So they do some homeschooling. So they are saving $43 a month for propane and $30 a month for homeschooling. These are ongoing like clockwork. There's no end goal or savings date. It's just happening every month like clockwork. So we need to add some savings goals up here, like an emergency fund. That would be a short-term savings goal priority number 1. So if it were me and seeing this, we need to get clear and really specific on what we're trying to accomplish with our money outside of just debt. And because they are on such a debt payoff journey, they want to be very, very intense with their debt payoff. I would suggest having just that emergency fund savings goals for now. Now let's look at their debt. Now, they had so many different interest rates. I had to kind of start using the highlighter method. So first priority is what we have in green. This is the highest interest debt that they are paying. 30% interest. Their second priority is one in yellow, that's 29.74. Their third priority is around 27%, and then so on. Now, this could go a couple different ways. You could say, I'm going to use the snowball method, pay off the balances that have the lowest balances first. Knock off some of these debts so we don't have such a huge list. If the amount of credit accounts is giving you anxiety, you would start with paying off the smallest balances first. But seeing this, I wouldn't say I'm a numbers person, but knowing how much of their cash flow is being eaten up by these 30% interest rates, I have to go with the avalanche method with this. I want to knock out the debt that's eating the most of their cash flow right now, and that's the 30% interest. So over here, I wrote down the order in which I would pay them off. Now, you may see, like in the green, multiple credit cards have 29.99%. So how do you order it when they all have the same interest rate? I do it by knocking out the debt with the highest balance first in that. So first is the Ford Visa, has $3,300 at 29.99. Then down to the $2,176 balance, which is that A Advantage. And then Home Depot at $1,800, and then Lowe's at $1,486. So multiple debts with the same interest rate, I then go by the balance of the highest balance first. So their minimum payments, just their minimum payments, they're paying $4,416 every single month. Now, when you look at that, that's significant. But to really get your butt in gear and to look at this as a whole perspective. Now, the reason we do the debt picture is not just to look at the minimum payments, okay? That's not what understanding your debt picture is about. It's about looking at your debt as a whole, understanding your debt story. If we look at it yearly, $52,000 every single year is going just to minimum debt payments. $52,000. And so we have, and the reason I say it like this is not because it should be embarrassing, I'm criticizing. It's because by looking at that, I see the massive opportunity that we have to free up cash flow. And I see how important it is to actually start this plan of attack for their debt. Now, let's get into the budget by paycheck method. Now, if we look at their income, okay, I'm going to put these side by side here. If we look at their income, they're getting paid on the 2nd, the 15th, and the 25th. These three on the 2nd, of course, we would combine into one budget day, and then the 15th and the 25th. So I'm essentially doing three budget days every single month. Okay. First, let's talk about our bills on the 1st. Well, they get paid on the 2nd. So if they paid their bills on the 1st, on the 2nd, they're paying late. Okay, remember, the whole part of this is improving your credit score and doing everything we can to increase our credit scores. And one of those things, a big part of those things, is paying our debt and our bills on time. So what we're going to do is we're going to assume that they pay all their bills on the 1st with their previous month's paycheck. So in course, we're working on January. All of these bills on the 1st will be paid with their December paychecks. Now, I'm going to show you how to accomplish that with this January month. Then we get into their paychecks on the 2nd. So we have the VA retirement, the USAF disability, and the other retirement. That gives us a total of $4,441. Okay, we're going to use that to pay all the bills until our next payday, which is on the 15th. Okay, so let's look at the paycheck budget tracker. Now, what I personally like to do is I like to highlight my budget with the payday on the calendar. So to see how they're the same color, the pink color. Okay, so I have $4,441. Here are all the bills. This is why we use the budget calendar. It gives us a visual roadmap of what bills we're going to pay with each paycheck. So all the bills that are in purple here, we're going to write down on our fixed expenses. Now, that totals $1,904, leaving us $2,537 left. Because there was such a substantial amount left over after paying our fixed expenses, I decided I wanted to tackle all of their variable expenses. Now, of course, if you don't have that much left over after paying those bills, you would probably need to do maybe just half their variable expenses this paycheck and half the next paycheck. Really learning what to include in each one of your paycheck budgets is trial and error. Here's another thing. Let's say, for instance, all their bills landed, say, in the first week of the month. And you get to doing your paycheck tracker and you're like, well, I don't make enough this paycheck, or I have very little left over for any variable spending because all my bills land in the beginning of the month. Then it's time to start going around calling and changing your due dates, spreading out your bills more throughout the month to work with your dedicated budget days, your paychecks. Okay, so I took care of all their variable expenses, which is $2,225, leaving us $312 left over. Perfect. Then I was like, okay, well then we're going to take care of the current ongoing savings goals they have, the propane and the homeschool. So I did that here, wrote it down in my savings goals. That left us that was $73 total, leaving us $239 left over. So we still have money left over. What are we going to do? We're going to tackle the first debt on our priority list. Let's go back to our debt. Our first priority debt is that Ford Visa balance of $3,324 for 30% interest. We're going to throw $239, the rest here at that priority debt payment. So we're making all of our minimum debt payments, and then anything extra above these minimum payments that we're paying on all of our debt, we're going to throw extra to our number one priority debt. Okay, let's go to our second budget day. And that is getting paid, if we go back to their income, on the 15th, Social Security for $4,237. So we're going to pay everything that's highlighted in this teal color to get us to our next income. So that's Costco credit card, all these Disney Plus, their roof loan. Now, one of the things I want to show you, you can see on these budget paycheck trackers, starting on this one in January, the teal color. Do you see how I started setting aside money for these bills that are due on the 1st, February 1st? So I am using January income to start paying for February bills. And so I'm putting all of the $2,349, their mortgage, their Starlink, and their car insurance. I'm taking care of all of those bills on the 1st with this paycheck that's happening on the 15th. Because we took care of all their variable expenses, we took care of their savings goals, we're then going to throw the rest towards that number one priority debt. So now we knocked out all the bills we're going to have to pay on February 1st with this one in teal, the second income that we're getting in January. We've taken care of their variable expenses. We've taken care of their saving goals. Now, the last paycheck of the month that we're talking about is their other income that they're getting $2,011. They're going to pay the last 3 remaining bills that they have for the month. Now, here's where you can decide, and I wanted to mention this. They still have $1,700 after paying those 3 fixed expenses. If it were me, I would throw $500 of that towards an emergency fund, the rest towards debt. Or you could throw all of it towards that number one priority debt of $1,700 and have this paid off in 2 months. Boom, first one paid off in 2 months. Now, like I said, I would recommend the $500 extra with this third paycheck, this third budgeting day, to go towards the emergency fund. So within 4 months, if you're doing $500 a month, you could have $2,000 saved for that. So that is my third paycheck and my last budgeting day for January. So that is how I would do it in the budget by paycheck method. Now, I want to take you over to my computer because I want to show you something. When you look at their debt picture, anyone, I don't care who you are, this would give anyone anxiety to see these numbers in this way, right? Paying $52,000 a year or $4,400 a month in just minimum debt payments. When I look at my income and realizing that I'm spending 41% of my income on just minimum debt payments, it can feel like I'm drowning. It can feel like there's no way out. It can feel like I'm never going to pay this off. It can feel like I'm never going to make progress. But you can. And I'm going to show you how you visually see this. I want to give you some hope. Okay, so over here, I entered all of Tina's debt into the Budget Mom's debt payoff calculator. Now, this is currently only available in my Building Blocks of Budgeting course, but I thought it was so imperative to show this because it's going to give you a lot of motivation and hope and make you feel like you're not drowning, even though we're dealing with a lot of debt. So the first thing I did is I took all of Tina's debt, I entered it here on this left side of the screen. So all of the creditors, and let me go ahead and make this bigger. Okay, so over here on the left side, I entered all of her debt and I entered it in the order in which I wanted to pay it off from my worksheet. So we're starting with all of the 29.99% interest rates and then going down in interest rate, the minimum payment, and of course the rank is the order in which I'm going to pay it off. The great thing about this calculator is it also shares the interest only that you're paying with these payments. So for example, the Ford Visa, $3,324 balance, paying 29.99% interest. The minimum payment is $102. Out of that $102, every single time you make a minimum payment, 83.08, $83.08 is going to interest. The very, very tiny amount is going towards principal. It's quite remarkable to see that. Now, right here in the center is where the magic happens. So I entered all of Tina's minimum payments, which was the $4,400 plus the surplus that we have every month, the $2,079, which is right here. The total monthly payment that we can make towards our debt is $6,495. Now, the monthly payment that's showing right here is the minimum payments plus any extra you can afford. Now, the total balance of her debt is $479,883. The total minimum payments is $4,416. Now, on this is a drop down. You can do snowball, and you can see when you click what method you want to use, the outcome over here on the right changes. So let's say we do the snowball, which is paying off the smallest balances first. Well, it's going to put our prime credit card as our number one priority because it's the smallest balance of $425, but we're only paying 7.17% interest. The interest paid is, if you look over here, the interest only is the amount that's going toward interest in our payments. So we can pay it off 1 month. We can also pay off the Lowe's credit card in 1 month by doing this. Now it says if we do the snowball method, she's going to be debt-free by November of 2031, and she's going to pay total interest of $53,000 over that time period between now and November 2031. If we do the avalanche method, which I recommend, she's going to still be debt-free November 2031, but the interest paid decreases to $52,793. Not a huge amount, but I'm all about saving money where I can. So I'm going to say the avalanche method. Now, if you go down here, you can see basically the percent based of total balance. So basically it's showing you her debts with the largest balance in bar graph form. This is going to show you the total payments and interest over time. So you see this green line. This is the interest that you're paying over time. These are our payments. And as we get more towards the end, our interest goes down and more of our payment goes towards the principal payments. So avalanche, this is snowball. And this is doing absolutely nothing. No snowball method. So you can play around with this. You can also change the order in which you want to pay it off and do it just by the rank, order entered in table. What's really great is this debt snowball payment schedule is going to show you, if you go over here, there's tabs along the bottom. So we're now on the payments tab. This is going to show you all the payments in your plan. So it's telling you by November of 2031, you're going to make your last payment on your mortgage. We have the balance after making our payments, which is the next tab. This is our interest that we're paying. These are payments that are happened before our snowball. The one I want to talk about is extra payments. So this is our extra payments tab. This is just showing you where your extra payment is being applied past your minimum payments. But if you go back to the payments tab, this is where I think it gets really helpful. There is this yellow column here. Let's say in January, you get a bonus at work, okay, and you get $13,000. You want to throw all of that towards your debt. How is that going to affect your timeline and your debt plan? So let's write in January. You can see I'm in the month of January. Okay, month of January, and I want to do 13,000 extra. Look how it changed. Now it's saying over here that we're going to be paid off by applying that bonus to our debt, paid off in August of 2031 instead of November of 2031. It changed our entire thing. So if you have any additional payments past your original plan of your minimum payments and any leftover surplus amount, you have come in some extra money, maybe you sold some things around the house, you would enter it in the additional tab over here. The reason I'm showing this is because I wanted to show, looking at your debt list, it may seem like you're drowning, it may seem impossible, but it's not. Literally, by November 2031, you can be fully 100% debt-free, including your mortgage. You can make significant progress, huge progress. You could have half of these debts paid off by literally the end of this year. You could have just 3 remaining, your roof loan, your car loan, and your mortgage by the end of this year. You can pay off everything else on this list. You can pay off all of these. That is remarkable. This is why I like looking at these types of calendars, because it reinstills hope. Now, like I said, the debt payoff calculator is only available right now in our building blocks of budgeting course, but I'll link another helpful tool in the description of this video. All right, and there you have it, Tina's real life budget laid out and ready for action. It's been a journey kind of diving into her numbers, her story, and her goals. I want to talk about the steps Tina can take to improve her financial situation using the Budget by Paycheck method. Now, Tina, if you are watching this, here is a simple plan to help you tackle your debt, regain control of your finances, and really build toward the financial stability that your family wants. Now, in the video, you saw breaking your monthly budget down into paycheck budgets. This will show you and allow you to assign every dollar a job before you spend it, ensuring that you cover your priorities and avoid that overspending. For Tina, this means starting with her fixed expenses, like the mortgage, the car loan, utilities, minimum debt payments, and then working on the variable expenses like groceries, travel, and the medications. Once those essentials are covered, any remaining income can go toward debt repayment. Now, Tina has a significant amount of high interest debt, credit card debt, so it's critical to focus on paying these off as quickly as possible because it's eating a lot of their cash flow. So I would use the avalanche method like I showed in my debt payoff calculator. You're going to pay the minimum payments on all the debts to stay current. And then you want to funnel as much of that extra income as possible, around $2,079, that monthly surplus, towards the debt with the highest interest rate first. Now, for Tina, that means starting with that Home Depot credit card, all the ones that were at 29.99%, almost 30% interest. And then after Home Depot, it was the Lowe's card, followed, I believe it was the AA Advantage, and then the Ford Visa, and so on. So doing this approach will save her the most money in interest over the long run, over time. Now, while paying off debt, I noticed that in Tina's savings goals, there wasn't an emergency fund. It's really important to build a small emergency fund while you're paying off debt. I know it might sound counterintuitive, but it's really important to avoid falling back into the credit card trap. So Tina could set aside $500 a month from her surplus and have $2,000 emergency fund in just 4 months. So this will give her some breathing room for those unexpected expenses. When you are just starting this journey, it's really normal to feel overwhelmed and like you're drowning. But one of the best things you can do is turn the unknown into the known. And you do that by writing down everything that you know about your finances, creating some type of organizational system in your life, and creating that plan to get you to where you want to go. So don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a real life budget in the future or another breakdown or budgeting tip. So if you found this video helpful, please like it and don't forget to subscribe.